In the beginning, Eva was swimming in the pool when a guy approaches her and tries to flirt with her, but she cuts him off and asks him to pass her wheelchair. She was a paraplegic, which surprised the guy, so he stops flirting with her. She goes home. She has a dog named Marvin. She eats her dinner and goes to bed. She was suffering from PTSD, so she hallucinates that a truck is approaching her and is about to hit her. It was probably a flashback to her accident that left her crippled. The next day, she was working in her office when her boss calls her and tells her that her performance has been bad recently and she has to make improvements or else he'll replace her. After that, when she gets home, she calls her father on the phone to talk with him. Her father had Alzheimer's and lived with his second wife. Eva's mother died years ago. When she calls her father, her stepmother picks up the phone, and when Eva tells her that she wants to talk with her father because it's her birthday, but her stepmother doesn't let her and hangs up the phone. Then she was sitting alone at home looking at old pictures of her and her father. When her friend Sophie arrives there, she brought cake and a gift for her birthday. She gifted her an advent calendar. The calendar had a phrase engraved on its back that said, "Dump it and I'll kill you." Eva and Sophie thought nothing of it. When Eva opened the calendar, there was a key. She used it and opened the first box of the calendar. It had a candy inside. Eva opens it and on the wrapper 3 rules were written. Rule number 1. If you eat one candy, you'll have to eat all of them or I'll kill you. Rule number 2. Respect all the rules until you open the last door or I'll kill you. Rule number 3. Dump it and I'll kill you. They don't take it seriously and Eva eats the candy. Then she opens another door and in there was an after 8 candy. Eva feels weird. Because it was her dad's favorite candy, she doesn't eat it and puts it on the table. Then she opens another door. There was a small painting in it, and on it was written, "To cure hurt and destroy what hurts you." Then she tries to open another door, but it was stuck and doesn't open. The date was 3rd of December, so she was able to open only 3 doors. They wait until midnight to cut the cake. After cutting the cake, they were talking when they hear a noise coming from the calendar. It said, "Midnight is here. Open the door." They were in the kitchen, so they go to the table where the calendar was placed. When Eva turns the key, a creepy wooden figure of a priest pops up, which startles them. They laugh about it and then Eva opens the door. In it was a candy with the picture of Jesus, and on the wrapper was written, "Jesus said to the cripple, rise and walk." That phrase makes the situation a little awkward. Sophie tries to talk to Eva, but she says she doesn't want to talk about it. So Sophie leaves the house. After she left, Eva takes the after 8 candy and eats it. Just then her phone rings. When she picks up, it was her father. He wishes her birthday and hangs up. She tries to call him again, but he doesn't pick up. Next day, she was in the office when her boss introduces her to Marion, the new intern he hired to potentially replace Eva. He tells Eva to tell Marion about how work is done here. She does that. Then Sophie picks her up from her office and they both go home. Eva tells Sophie that when she ate her dad's favorite candy, her dad called her and wished her birthday. Sophie says that if the candies are making her feel weird, then she shouldn't eat them. Then Eva asks Sophie where she got the calendar from. She says that she stole it from someone. Then they both go out for dinner. They enter a bar where they were gonna meet a guy named Boris. They meet him. He also brought a friend along named John. They all sit together and drink few drinks. After some time, Eva says that she's tired, so she wants to go home. Sophie stays at the bar with John, and Boris offers Eva a ride home. Boris and Eva leave the bar on his car. He tells her about a trading app and offers to give her money if she downloads the app and starts trading. She wasn't interested, so she refuses. Then he starts the car and they starts heading home. On their way, Eva falls asleep. When she wakes up, she sees that Boris was touching her private part. She tries to stop him. He says that she was playing along until now. She screams at him that she wasn't because she can't feel anything down there. After hearing that, he feels frustrated and tries to force her to give him a blowjob. She resists, which makes him angry, so he pushes her out of the car, then throws her wheelchair out and leave her there on the road. She curses him to die. Just then one of the doors of the calendar opens and a toy model of Boris's car comes out. Eva's dog sees it and pick it up. On the other side, Boris was pleasuring himself when his car window breaks and in no time it gets crushed and he dies. The next day we see Eva sitting in a park. A guy passes by her. She notices him. Then she gets a call from Sophie. She tells her that Boris crashed his car last night and is dead. After hearing that, Eva remembers that she cursed him to die. She feels weird but doesn't think much of it. Then Sophie says that she's coming to meet her. When Sophie gets there, she checks Eva's phone. Boris had sent her the link of trading app. Sophie clicks on the link and downloads the app. She receives €457 from Boris. Eva was looking at the guy from before again. Sophie says that she should talk to that guy, but she doesn't want a romantic relationship with anyone because of her condition. Then Sophie tells Eva that she's going to Munich for 2 weeks. She offers Eva a ride home, but Eva didn't want to leave the park yet, so Sophie leaves alone. After that, when Eva gets home, she was putting food in her dog's tray when she notices broken pieces of the toy car. She doesn't pay much attention to them and throws them in the bin. At midnight, the calendar rings again. Eva gets up from her bed and opens another door of the calendar. She gets a red heart-shaped candy. She doesn't eat it. The next day, she was sitting in a cafe when she sees the guy she saw in the park again. She orders the same coffee as him. When the waitress put both cups on her table, she puts the heart-shaped candy into the guy's coffee. When he drinks his coffee, he gets up and approaches Eva and starts talking with her. He says that his name is William. Then they both keep talking until the evening. The cafe was closing, so the waitress asks them to leave. William offers Eva a ride home. When he drops her at home, they exchange numbers and then he leaves. In the evening, she opens 7th door of the calendar. She gets a candy in the shape of a clock. She quickly eats it. Then she realizes that it's been 4 days since she didn't go to work. When she goes to her office, she gets yelled at by her boss and then he fires her. She takes her stuff from the office and calls William to pick her up. He drops her home. Then she tells him about the calendar and the candies. She says that because of the candies, time passed quickly and she didn't realize it. He says that she should stop eating these candies. Then he leaves. Eva still hadn't eaten the white candy with the face of Jesus on it. When she puts 4 candy wrappers together, it made the logo of Infinite Signum Company, so she opens the trading app and invests all the money that Boris sent her in that company. That night, she puts some books on the calendar because she didn't want it to open a door that night. At midnight, the calendar opens and it calls for her dog Marvin. A door opens and there was a dog treat in it. Marvin picks it up and goes out of the house. The next day, Eva was having breakfast. She opens the trading app and was happy to see that she made profit on her trade. She hears Marvin barking outside. When she goes to check on him, she was terrified to see that he was covered in blood. She thought he was hurt, so she quickly cleans him up. After she cleaned him up, she was relieved to see that he wasn't hurt. She finds her boss's pendant on her dog. She gets worried, so she calls him, but he doesn't pick up. Then she takes the toy car's pieces out of the trash and write counting on her table, and then put whatever candy she got on that date to try to make sense of everything that has happened because of the calendar. Then she opens another door. She gets another white candy. She still hadn't eaten the one she got before, so she eats both of the white candies. Her legs start shaking and then she passes out. When she regains consciousness, she was in the hospital. William was a nurse. He was sitting beside her. He tells her that she passed out on the street and was holding the calendar, refusing to let go of it. Then he tells her that they will keep her in the hospital for another day to do some tests to check if she's okay. At night in the hospital, a mentally unstable woman comes up to Eva. She had the calendar in her hand. Eva opens another door. She gets a black candy with a cross on it. Eva puts the candy in that woman's mouth and then the woman goes away. The next day, Eva returns home. When she opens the next door, she gets another of her dad's favorite candy. So she goes to his house to meet him. She puts the candy in his mouth. After eating it, he hugs her. Then he tells her that the calendar demands sacrifice, and if she wants to walk again, she would have to sacrifice strangers and also people she loves. Then he tells her when it's finally his turn to be sacrificed, she shouldn't hesitate. After that, she goes home and opens another door. She gets another white candy. She goes to the hospital to meet William. She tells him that last time she walked because she ate this candy. Then she eats that one too. After eating, her whole body starts shaking as if she's having a seizure. But after a few seconds, she gets better. William was holding her. She happily tells him that she can feel his hand on her thigh. Then the two become intimate. After that, William drops Eva at the swimming pool. On his way back, he notices that Eva left her keys in his car, so he goes to her place to drop off the keys. He puts the keys in a pot by the door, and then he calls Eva, but the call goes to voicemail, so he tells her that he put the keys in the pot and she can use them when she gets back. Just then he notices that the front door was open. He closes it and goes towards his car. He was about to get in when he notices that the door was open again, so he enters her house. There he sees the table where Eva put the candy wrappers and labeled them. Just then the telephone rings. When he picks it up, he hears faint whispers. Then he sees that something was being engraved on the calendar. He freaks out and puts the calendar in a bag and leaves the house with it. Then he reaches a lake. He dumps the calendar in the lake. Smoke starts coming out of the lake. Then a demon emerges from the lake. William gets scared and tries to leave on his car, but the demon drags him into the lake and drowns him in the water. On the other side, Eva was at the swimming pool. She was getting out of the pool when she slips and falls back into the water. Then she somehow ends up in that lake. When she was swimming out of there, she comes across William's lifeless body. She tries to save him, but it was too late. He was already dead, so she leaves him and swims out of the lake alone. Then the demon also comes out of the lake. When he approaches Eva, she passes out. When she wakes up, she was on her couch. The guy who was flirting with her in the beginning, his name was Antoine. He was knocking at her door. He tells her that he doesn't know how she left the swimming pool without her chair, but he brought her chair and bag and he's putting them in front of the door, and if she needs anything else she should call him for help. Eva didn't want to talk with that guy, so she asks him to leave, so he leaves. At night she opens another door. She gets a W-shaped candy. She knew it has something to do with William, so she quickly eats it. Then she hears the telephone ringing. She quickly picks it up, but she still hears a telephone ringing. Then she goes to the bathroom, and through the bathroom mirror she could see William when he was in her house before he died. She tries to call out, but her voice doesn't reach him. Then she writes on the mirror, "Don't dump it." We find out that she was the one who engraved that on the calendar too. She was unable to save William, so she was devastated. Just then the calendar starts calling her to open a door. When she doesn't, a knife pops out of the calendar. When she picks it up, there was a picture of a dead dog engraved on it, which meant she has to kill her dog. She was reluctant, so the demon tries to kill her, but then she picks the knife again. The next day Sophie comes back from Munich. When she enters Eva's house, she sees blood all over the floor, which leads her to the bathroom. In the bathroom she sees Eva with her dead dog in her lap. Sophie was shocked to see that, but she cleans the house and take care of the dead dog with the help of her boyfriend. Eva was resting on her bed. Sophie was staying at Eva's place too. Sophie was looking at old pictures of Eva. Turns out before Eva became a paraplegic she was a ballerina. Then the calendar calls. Sophie goes up to it and opens a door. She gets a blue candy with a picture of an erect penis on it. She hides the candy. Then Eva comes and asks her what she got from that door. She lies and tells her that it was a chewing gum. She gives Eva a chewing gum. Eva quickly eats it, but nothing happens. The next day Eva and Sophie were going on a hunting trip with Sophie's boyfriend. Eva was still chewing the gum. Nothing happens, so she throws the gum out. When they reach the destination she eats another candy, which brings back the memory of her accident. Turns out Sophie was the one with her when the accident happened. The next day Sophie and her boyfriend were hunting in the woods. When they come back, Eva asks them what did they do with her dog's body. They tell her that he was cremated. At night Sophie comes into Eva's room. She tells Eva that it's been 3 years since the accident happened, and they still haven't talked about it. Eva tells her that the calendar will give her legs back. Sophie says that the calendar is making you crazy. Eva opens another door. She gets another white candy. She tells Sophie that if she eats this candy she'll be able to walk again, but in return Sophie will get her. Sophie says that if she'll walk again then she should eat it, but Eva doesn't eat the candy and gives it to Sophie and asks her to give it back tomorrow and she'll eat it at home when she's alone. Sophie then leaves the room. Eva keeps repeating the phrase, "I don't blame her and I don't want her hurt." When Sophie enters her room she starts getting intimate with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend doesn't want to play the devil's tango while Eva is in the other room, so Sophie gives him the candy she got from the calendar before. In the other room Eva was holding onto the calendar when she notices a wire poking out of it. She yanks the wire. A box on top of the calendar opens. It had a painting in it, and on the corner was the name and address of the painter. The painter had the calendar before Eva. Just then Eva hears Sophie screaming from the other room. Suddenly the door of her room breaks open and the lifeless naked body of Sophie drops on the floor. Her boyfriend was standing in the door and his eyes were red. The demon appears behind him and breaks his neck. Then the demon approaches Eva and feeds her the white candy. After that Eva finally was able to walk again. She walks out of that place. She gets in the car and drives away to go search for the painter of that painting. She reaches his house and knocks on his door. When the painter asks why she's here, she tells him she's here to ask him about the painting he made last year. He says that it is not possible because he's been blind for 5 years. That painting was of his wife and son. They were painted dead. Actually, the calendar granted that painter his sight at the cost of his wife and son's death. but he couldn't bear the loss, so he ate the last candy from the calendar, which ruined everything, and he forgot about the whole experience. But when he touched the painting, he remembered everything and got scared, so he yells at Eva and asks her to leave his house. She leaves his place. On her way back, she opens another door. She gets a small doll that looked like Marion, the intern from her office. She puts the doll down. The demon appears behind her and was about to strangle her. She picks the doll again, at which the demon stops. She starts pulling the doll's hair out. On the other side, Marion's hair starts falling too. Then Eva breaks all of the doll's bones and Marion dies an excruciating death. Then Eva goes to a hotel. She was sitting in the hotel room. She opens the next box. She gets her dad's favorite candy and a gun, which meant she had to shoot her father. Now, she gets to her father's house. She put the calendar in a gift box and watches from behind the bushes. Her stepmother takes the gift box inside. When she opens the box and finds the calendar and a card which said the gift was from Eva to her father. Her stepmother doesn't want to give it to her father, so she dumps it in the fireplace. The demon appears behind her and kills her. She screams. Eva hears her scream and she knew that her stepmother was dead, so she enters the house and feeds the candy to her dad. Her dad knew it was his turn to be sacrificed. He stands before Eva having his back towards her. Eva reluctantly shoots her father. Then she goes back to the hotel room. The next day she calls Antoine, the guy from the pool. They play the devil's tango and then she tells him about everything that happened. On the last day she goes to the hotel's rooftop. She makes a video message for the next person who will get the calendar. She tells them about the rules and she starts dancing. After recording her message, she puts her phone in the same compartment where the painting previously was. Then she opens the last door and gets the candy that'll rewind everything. She was about to eat it when Antoine arrives there too and he stops her. He tells her the second rule of the calendar was to respect all the rules until you open the last door. She already have opened all the doors, so technically it was up to her to eat the last candy or not. To prove his point, Antoine drops the calendar from the rooftop and nothing happens, which meant dumping the calendar didn't kill him and they were safe. She gets a flashback of everything she did to get to this point. If she decided to not eat the candy, everyone who was sacrificed would stay dead. She decides to not eat the candy and screams with joy because she got her legs back. In the last scene we see a man. He was bleeding from his forehead and he was holding a baby and Eva's phone that she put in the calendar. He was knocking at Eva's front door, which meant he was the next person who got the calendar. The door opens and he gets in, and at that, the movie ends. How was the movie? Let me know in the comments. Also subscribe to the channel for more recaps like this.